What's a Good Offer? Presented by the University of Kansas School of Law Career Services Office. What we will cover in this presentation: typical starting pay bands, other factors to consider, evaluating your offer, comparing offers, and negotiating offers. First, we know all students are curious about starting pay bands, so let's cover that. Here they are. The biggest firms in Kansas City start new attorneys between $140,000 to $170,000 per year. Big law and larger metropolitan areas typically start new attorneys at $170,000 to $215,000 per year. The small and medium firms in Kansas City pay somewhere in the range of $70,000 to $105,000 typically, while the small to medium firms in Lawrence and Topeka and other smaller markets pay somewhere in the range of $45,000 to $90,000. State government in Kansas typically starts new attorneys in the $50,000 to $62,000 range, while federal government positions often start between $60,000 and $80,000. Public interest positions in this region typically start attorneys between $50,000 and $65,000 per year, while judicial clerkships can pay anywhere from $40,000 to $65,000. Now let's discuss what else goes into deciding whether an offer is good. Think about things related to your standard of living or total compensation. This includes whether health care is available, the cost to you for that health care, the contributions this employer will make towards your retirement, whether you will have to pay for parking, whether they might pay for your cell and home Wi-Fi services, how much paid time off is available, whether there are bonuses, and whether the terms for earning the bonuses are well defined. Additionally, consider what your take-home pay will be. I like to use paycheckcity.com to figure this out. It is a pretty accurate measure in my experience. For example, a student who has no dependents with an offer for $85,000 per year, paid bi-weekly, and having to pay $200 per check for health insurance will take home $2,176 every 2 weeks if they live and work in Kansas City, Missouri. But they would take home $2,349 every 2 weeks if they lived and worked in Florida. That's about $350 per month difference. So it's worth taking a moment to use this calculator tool. Then take time to consider whether you will have the money you need for housing, utilities, food, transportation, student loans, childcare, and other expenses. Will there be enough left to do the fun things you enjoy? There are many calculators and tools that can help you with this. Zillow can give you typical rental and home purchase cost ranges. Instacart can give you an idea on the cost of groceries in a region. And there are many cost of living comparison calculators online. There are other factors to consider, like your quality of life. Will you like the work, the location? I often look to see if my favorite restaurants or stores or grocery delivery services are available in a place before I decide if I live there. Does the job fit your priorities? For example, are you comfortable with the organization's commitment to diversity? How long will your commute be? If you love giving back to the community, will this job allow you to do pro bono work? Are there benefits for domestic partners? What is the parental leave policy? And, very important to consider, is there a billable hours requirement? Many firms have one. In large firms, they often range from 1,600 to 2,100 billable hours per year. In smaller firms, they often range from 1,400 to 1,850 hours per year. This means that they expect you, at a minimum, to work on client files and bill the clients for at least this many hours per year. Oftentimes, the hours you spend at firm events, working on pro bono cases, at networking events trying to drum up business, organizing your office, chit-chatting with colleagues, and other tasks are not included. A person might typically spend 25% or more extra time working beyond what they bill for, so watch this carefully. There are also other factors that will feel very important to your immediate future. Will you be working while you study for the bar exam? Will they help with living expenses while you study? Will they pay for the bar exam? What about bar dues, membership fees to bar associations, or required continuing legal education courses? As a reminder, some states require membership in the bar association and offer other bar associations that can be helpful to you as you build your reputation and network. And continuing legal education, or CLE, is required each year for attorneys in most states to keep your license. The courses usually cost money. And finally, will they cover relocation expenses if accepting this job requires you to move? It's also important to consider whether this job will get you to any ultimate goal you have in mind. If you are looking for an impressive title or power in your career, can this job lead to it? Will it at least qualify you for the better opportunities in the future? Let's say your dream is to be a state district court judge. Working in a small, well-respected firm can certainly help you build relationships and reputation you will need to run for office. Working at the Department of Transportation might not. If you have an offer, you might be wondering whether you should take it. We wish we could answer this for you, but we can't. Basically, you need to think about how risk averse you are. Do you want to study for the bar exam worrying about not having a job yet? If this isn't the dream job, how likely are you to get another offer that is closer to the dream job? If you have time, try this. Pretend you said yes to the job offer. Walk around for a couple days like you are a person who has their job all set. How does it feel? Now, pretend you turned down the job. Walk around for a couple days like a person who doesn't have a job set yet and is looking for something they like more. How does this feel? And here's a cool flow chart that Meredith Wiggins, our Assistant Director for Career Services, created to help students navigate taking offers. Please look it over closely. In particular, notice that accepting a job means you should stop interviewing and withdraw from consideration for other jobs to which you've applied. If you aren't ready to do that, you probably aren't ready to accept the job. So let's talk about comparing and evaluating offers and negotiating them. Hopefully, this information will help you feel more secure about a decision to accept an offer. Now let's talk about how to evaluate and even compare your options. I have to admit that I'm crazy about rubrics. I use them for everything: house hunting, job searching, and even choosing vacation destinations. A rubric can help you score an opportunity, and it can also help you compare different options using a more objective score rather than trying to feel things out in your head. Today we will look at two examples where students have two different offers on the table and want to compare them to each other using the criteria that is most important to them. To use this method, you need to list factors that are important to you and assign them a weight that indicates how important each is to you. For example, being in an exciting city might be important to you, but it might be less important than having lots of disposable income. Let's look at these two examples so you have a better idea of how to use a rubric in your decision making. Student A has been offered a job with a smaller firm in Kansas City for $85,000 per year with an expectation that they will bill 1,700 hours. This student enjoys Kansas City and would like to have the money to enjoy the things the city has to offer, but is worried they won't have time to enjoy the city with this billable hours requirement. The student hopes to end up in big law at some point because of the pay and prestige, and has heard a lot of those firms make offers to good attorneys at smaller firms after a couple years. The student also has the option to work for a state agency in Topeka for $55,000 a year in a 9-to-5 job. There are opportunities to move up within the government structure, but it's less likely that they will break into big law or ever make more than $200,000 per year. Here, the student's important criteria are having a good standard of living, being in a fun location, having a job easy enough to enjoy what the city has to offer, and having grandiose future prospects. Standard of living and location were a little more important than the other two criteria, so they carry a weight of 30% each, while easy job and future prospects get a weight of 20%. This totals 100%. Now all that's left is to score each job on each of these categories using a 1 to 10 scale and then do a little math. The firm job paid more than the government job, so it got a 7 on standard of living, and the government job got a 3. Same scores for location because the firm job is in Kansas City while the government one was in Topeka. However, the government job gets a much higher score for easy job in this student's mind, and the firm score is a little better for future prospects. After all the math, as you can see, the firm job in Kansas City gets a 6.2 overall score compared to the 4.4 score for the government job. Let's try another one. Student B came to law school because they wanted to help people. They've been offered their dream job with Kansas Legal Services for $55,000 per year near family in southwest Kansas, but they are worried about supporting themselves with student loan payments on top of living expenses. They have also been offered a position with a mid-sized firm in Kansas City for $95,000 per year. The work doesn't seem as satisfying, but they will be able to do 100 hours per year of pro bono work that applies to the 1,650 billable hours required. It's not close to family, but they hope they can visit family on weekends if they have time. Here, the students' top important criteria are loving their work and location, and to a lesser extent, having free time, and to an even lesser extent, having extra money. Not surprisingly, KLS beat out the firm based on these criteria in all but the money category. The math shows that KLS is the clear winner. It might happen that you compare offers against each other, determine a winner, and don't really like the outcome. This could indicate that you weren't really torn on this decision after all. Maybe you already know what you want to do, and maybe it's worth listening to your gut. This is just a tool, and no one will ever know if you decide to throw your results out the window. Evaluating a single offer is done the same way, but rather than seeing which scores highest, you are able to see how well this single offer you have scores using your criteria. This might be helpful in deciding whether it's time to accept or keep looking for something closer to what you were hoping for. Now let's talk about negotiating offers. Let's start with 3 basic rules. First rule, don't start negotiating unless you're ready to accept if they give you what you're asking for. Second rule, decide if you're negotiating because you are willing and able to take the offer as is, but want to know that you got the best deal possible and left nothing on the table, or if you're negotiating because you really can't take the offer unless something changes. This is important in determining what approach you take. And the third rule, be sure to weigh your likelihood of success in negotiating against the unlikely possibility of insulting or upsetting the employer. It's unusual for someone to be off-put by an applicant attempting to negotiate terms, but it happens. Even more infrequently, we very, very rarely will see an employer actually withdraw an offer because an applicant tried to negotiate. Our opinion is that the employer in this kind of scenario is pretty immature and probably wouldn't have been fun to work for. And this happens very rarely, like I said, but I'd be remiss in my duties to you if I didn't at least share this possibility. So, how exactly do you weigh your likelihood of success? Here are some general guidelines regarding negotiation with common types of legal employers. Generally, big law has set hiring rates and benefits and is not likely to negotiate. They may also be off-put by an attempt to negotiate, assuming that everyone knows they have these set rates. So big law is often not the place to try negotiating. An exception might be inquiring about flexibility on location or hybrid work schedules. Next, public interest employers like KLS and Missouri State Public Defenders also have set hiring rates and benefits. They wish they could pay more, but they generally can't. So this is also not a great place to try negotiating. An exception might be an extra pay bump for bilingual applicants. And government employers are less likely to be able to negotiate salary, especially with entry-level jobs, and they are very limited regarding what they can do for benefits because state and federal laws and pay bands can apply. If you do try to negotiate salary with government employers, limit it to small amounts in the $2,000 range and limit your expectations of being successful. Finally, the best places to try negotiating are smaller firms and in corporate jobs. Small firms tend to have flexibility that larger structures don't have, and the corporate world is more used to candidates negotiating, so there's less risk of insulting anyone. Hypothetical time. Here, you want the job, but want to get the best possible deal. A small Kansas City firm has offered you a $60,000 salary and the chance for bonuses of up to $10,000, but with no clear prerequisites for earning the bonuses. This is enough money to pay your bills, and you liked working there during your summers in law school, so you do want the job, but you don't want to be taken advantage of with regards to your pay. In example 1, we are dealing with a small firm that probably doesn't have rules against negotiating offers. As long as you are respectful, your chance of offending them by asking for a better deal or clarification on bonus decisions is relatively low, though it's never zero. Here, you might try, "Hello, Ms. Jackson. Thank you so much for the employment offer. It means a lot to me that you have confidence in my ability to represent Jackson and Associates well in this community. I have really enjoyed working with your team as an intern for the past 2 summers, and I look forward to joining you as a lawyer. I did have some concerns about the compensation, though. As a new law school graduate, I am nervous about my ability to both support myself and pay off the loans I incurred during my studies. I spoke with the Career Services Office and learned that firms in Kansas City, similar in size to Jackson and Associates, are generally offering starting salaries in the $75,000 to $95,000 range. I was wondering whether there might be any wiggle room with regards to the starting salary. Or, if through your 2 years of working with them, you get the feeling that the firm isn't in the position to offer much more than the initial offer, you might try this. It starts similarly, but then, I spoke with the Career Services Office and learned that firms in Kansas City, similar in size to Jackson and Associates, are generally offering starting salaries in the $70,000 to $90,000 range. Side note, notice that we used a lower portion of the range given in the typical starting pay bands chart shown earlier, so they won't feel bad or embarrassed about the offer they gave you. Then continue with, I know your offer of $60,000 plus bonus gets me to that range, but I was wondering whether we could discuss the specific benchmarks you are looking for me to meet to qualify for the full bonus. Remember, smaller firms often don't add associates every year, so they might not be aware of the current salary range. Just providing them with that information might be enough to help them make the decision to increase the offer. And the most important thing is to be respectful. In example 2, you want the job but can't accept it as it currently stands. You've been offered a job at a Wichita Public Defender's office, but law school has left you completely broke. You need money for a deposit and first month's rent and a moving van. You really can't afford to make this move without that assistance, even though you want the job. In example 2, we know that public defenders are often unable to improve offers, but you also can't take the job without better terms. So you have nothing to lose. A good response might sound like this. Hello, Cheryl. I really appreciate this offer, and I'm flattered that you all have the confidence in my ability to represent your clients and your office. I'm in a tight situation, though. I'd love to work with you, but law school has left me unable to absorb the cost of relocating to Wichita at this time. I'm concerned about the deposit for securing an apartment and the cost of moving my belongings. I know you are probably not able to assist with the relocation expenses, but I wanted to be honest with you about this obstacle in case there's any creative way I'm not seeing to make this move possible. You never know what might happen. There could be programs to attract young professionals to the area, or there might be businesses in town that have specials you are unaware of. There's nothing to lose here because you're going to decline this offer unless they find a way to help you overcome this problem. And that's all we have for you today. Thank you for watching this presentation. We know every situation is unique, so feel free to contact us directly for individualized advice. Here are our email addresses. Rock Chalk.